Our last honoree will be Pamela Gray, class of 73. I said before that in an article called Madison Goes to Hollywood, we had pages and pages of people who have made it big. So Pamela today, a Hollywood screenwriter and playwright, joins an elite group of Minnesotans who excelled in the arts. Some of these include Arnie Kopelson, Jerry Wald, and Jim Giannopoulos, both studio directors, Irwin Shaw, who wrote The Young Lions and the movie The Young Lions, Bruce Morrow, known as Cousin Brucey, and Sid Ganis, president of the Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, and of course, last but not least, Judy Scheidlin, Judge Judy. We should start by saying that her love of writing, plays, and song goes back to Madison, where she was the Sing Scripts and Lyrics chair for 3 years. After Madison, she received a BA in English from SUNY Buffalo and an MA in creative writing. Thereafter, she was on her way to winning an Academy of Television Scriptwriting Fellowship, wrote an episode of Star Trek, and first place in the Samuel Goldwyn Writing Award for The Blouse Man, which eventually evolved in the critically acclaimed 1990 film Walk on the Moon. She had a lot of other writing credits, which are too numerous, I won't mention them. She said that her work is drawn to the theme of the ordinary woman overcoming great odds and doing something extraordinary. As a final note, very happily, the musical version of A Walk on the Moon had its East Coast premiere this spring to very, very positive reviews. Pamela's goal is now to get it to Broadway, and as she said, I'm now reclaiming the part of me that thrived at Madison. Welcome, Pamela Gray.
Unfortunately is out of town. And when the Alumni Association accepted me for the wall, I had the initial reaction I always have as a writer and as a Jewish girl from Brooklyn. I'm not good enough, I don't deserve it. Oh yes I do, and yes I am. I don't know if I'm the only one in this room who has the recurrent dream about missing the test, forgetting you took a class. Still to this day, some of the nightmares happen at Madison, some happen at college. But anyway, I was the one who did not know today I had to write a speech, so have post-its, will travel. I was unprepared, and I am going to live through this. I was not supposed to go to Madison High School. I was in the Tilden district, and my best friend, Karen Tanklow, who I was just texting to remind me of our favorite English teacher's name in 11th grade, she was going to Madison because her sister went to Madison because everybody knew that Madison was the best high school. And her parents were teachers. My beloved mom, who's here today, was a teacher, and somehow they pulled strings that probably were not legal in those days to get us to go to the school out of the district. One of the reasons that I was so thrilled to get this honor is because it wasn't really about, oh, I'm on the wall, but it validates my really deep belief that Madison is the reason I'm the person I am today. That I was so shaped by this experience. And I'm often the one in a group of people who says something unpopular, which is, I loved high school. And I have to tell you, not many people who didn't go to Madison say that. And, but I did. And I think fondly of this experience, and really this award or recognition got got me to think about some of the specific ways I became who I am. And I agree with what Janice said and what Susan said. The teachers here were extraordinary. And Robert Greenman was, I think he was my 9th grade English teacher. And from him, I got my love for mythology. And I actually wound up taking classical mythology classes in college. And now when I teach screenwriting, there's a popular way to teach it, which is to look at mythology and track your characters as if they're on a journey, a hero's journey, or in my world, a heroine's journey. And I'm still drawing on the myths and legends that he inspired me to think about. Robert Anker was my creative writing teacher, and I adored him, and he was one of many Madison teachers who just encouraged creativity. Just write what you feel like writing, and found inspiring ways to make us do that. And I really don't have memories of any teachers stifling me here. The experience was to open up. And that was also followed by the wonderful Beverly Cooper, who I'm so sad I never got to see her after I grew up. She taught a class named Literature of the Theater, and it wasn't only getting us to understand and read plays, but to make connections between what was in art and what was in our lives. And again, if I look back at all the pieces, this was leading me towards the path I wound up on. Millie Glaberman, who was my ceramics teacher, was the first person, again, who inspired me to try a different form. And I was very proud of the chess set I made in that class. And my father wrote me a $1,000 check to not give it to a boy I had a crush on. I should have taken the check. And then, of course, Chet Fulmer, who was legendary. I don't even think I took his class, but he was this inspirational figure. We all joke that he looked like God. You know, all this white hair, white beard, booming voice, and he was the one who was in charge of the yearbook, and I was the log editor, which was, I'm going to leave Sing for a minute, but really this experience of collaboration, which was so thrilling. It was the combination that I was the boss and there was collaboration. I was the co-editor with Nancy Kowalik, who also has a career in film and theater that started here. But we were on our own, and this was a theme throughout Madison. Express yourself, empower yourself. We're here, but do it the way you want to do it. And those, sadly, smoke-filled meetings in Chet Fulmer's office with the log editors and comparing the photographs and the writing and trying to cover every teacher in every department. And I'm sorry to say I wasn't that good with the sports section, but that's why we had a sports editor for the yearbook. And it just, to be creative in a room with other people was so intoxicating and inspiring. And it's still something I love and don't get to do that much as a screenwriter, where I'm home alone with my cats in my pajamas writing. But any opportunities for collaboration bring me back to Madison. By the way, the first play I ever wrote was called A Log Day's Journey into Night, about pulling log all-nighters with my team, staying up hours and hours. And these, remember, no computers. I learned with Nancy Kowalik, cut and paste. And every page of that yearbook was cut and pasted. And which actually is a very good skill to this day. I make very nice invitations, and they're not on a computer. But the biggest inspiration in my life was Sing. And I saw Sing first show was The Mikado, and then we went to Fiddler on the Roof and Mano La Mancha, and I just loved show music so much that I was bullied in 5th grade because I was showing off that I had gotten the King and I soundtrack for my birthday, and everyone was calling me a square and throwing things at me. And my mother, I just reminded her of the story, she was so upset that she went to Woolworths and asked the woman, what's a popular rock and roll song today? And she came back with the 45 of Red Rubber Ball by The Circle and said, maybe this is the kind of music you want to like. I mean, I eventually grew into some of that. It went from The Circle to Carole King, but I never lost the show music bug. And Sing, for those of you who weren't involved, you were writing lyrics to established Broadway musicals. And, you know, we had an orchestrator and we had someone leading a band, but we were taking established songs and putting our own lyrics to them to match whatever theme we had in Sing. But Sing was, you know, we would get the topics in June, and we would be working on this until we performed in November. And again, it was this collaboration and laughing together and inside jokes and terrible fights. Even then I was fighting with directors about changing my work. But, you know, when I describe Sing to people who didn't go to Brooklyn high schools, they can't even visualize it. And I've taken peeks on YouTube. I mean, now there's video and, you know, there's Sing, if it still exists, is high tech. But for young people who love to write and create and act and do art, and all of us came together, it was so thrilling. And that's what I loved about it the most. But something else happened for me in this auditorium. So I wrote Sing sophomore, junior, and senior year. And we won as juniors, and I still show off about that. But I was sitting somewhere in this section, like 4th row from the back, and listening to people laugh at my jokes. The same stuff I had written in my Brooklyn bedroom was now coming out of the mouths of actors. Or people were applauding the lyrics I'd written, and it was this strange, like, oh my God, what I do for love can affect and enchant other people. And our script and lyrics won every year. But so it was that combination of just realizing there was a connection to an audience, that I had that potential in me, and also that I wanted to keep creating art with other people. The one thing that we didn't get in Madison, at least if we did, I didn't know what room you went to, there was no guidance counselor who sat down and said, you love musical theater, you want to be Stephen Sondheim when you grow up, this is how you do it. So I majored in English, which was not, you know, the Boogie Prize, and I became a poet, and I did continue to do other kinds of creative writing on the side. But Madison was still with me, and it wasn't only about being creative, but about feeling, again, back in that room with Chet Fulmer saying, I'm here if you need me, do what you want. The self-empowerment and just feeling inside that I had the right to create and that I had the ability to create and that I could make my own decisions in the world of art. I had an English teacher here, I'm pretty sure his name was Mr. Berger, and he was the person who introduced us to contemporary poetry. And I started writing poetry in his class, trying to imitate the Imagist poets. And again, all the pieces go back to being in these classrooms and feeling, you know, just this spark. And I do, like others have said, I don't look back on the college years. I look back on here when I think of where it all started. One of the things, because I wasn't told how to grow up to be Stephen Sondheim, is my first work was as a teacher. influenced by my mom, but also influenced by how much I love the teachers here. And to this day, you know, on the side, when I have time, I teach at a screenwriters lab for women over 40 that was still being funded by Meryl Streep. I taught at one point poetry in the schools for 6th graders. In every type of teaching I do, it's about teaching like the Madison High School teachers did. It's create, don't worry about spelling, grammar, just go with your heart, go with your mind, do what you want, we'll fix it later. And no one was saying, I didn't hear the doors close until my first college poetry writing class. And also, he was a Pulitzer Prize winning poet, and he announced after one of my poems that women's lives were not an appropriate subject for poetry. And after that, I never took another class in an English department, another writing class in an English department again. I started teaching. I went to SUNY Buffalo, which was about as cool as Madison, and I could get credit for being a teacher. So I taught women's poetry writing classes and never stopped. But again, it was so paradoxical compared to what I had here. I want to tell one Madison story where all these pieces of Madison came together. In 2003, I had just come off of having my first 2 movies in 1999, A Walk on the Moon, A Music of the Heart. And I was getting a lot of work then and a lot of attention. And these producers, these theater producers, who had produced Mamma Mia, were looking for a writer to figure out how to make a theatrical show, not a jukebox show where it's just the music, but could you take Carole King's music and find a way to create a fictional story? And of course, the first thing I told them was, well, Carole King went to my high school, and I had to come up with a way to do this, and in the interim, they said, you should go and see one of our shows. So one of the producers gave me tickets for Mamma Mia. I was already in town for the 30-year Madison High School reunion. So I was with 2 of my besties, Karen Tanklow and Kim Wallen, and we also knew that one of the stars of our sings, Sandy Rosenberg, was in Mamma Mia. And very sadly, Sandy passed a couple of years ago. She was a comedian